Thank you for coming here to our session this morning. You are at the Multichannel Meet the Controllers session. Today we'll be hearing from Heather Jones, who's joining me at the moment from A&E Networks, and a little bit later on, after we've spoken to Heather, we'll speak to Hamish Mykura from the National Geographic channel, Louise Homes from Comedy Central and MTV, and Craig Orr from MTV International. Thank you for being here bright and early. You all win my respect. I'm very impressed. Just to run you through the format of how it's going to work, we're going to speak to each of them individually, and after we've done that, we will open up the floor to questions, so you will get a chance to ask each of them a question. And if you haven't done so already, please do download the Edinburgh TV Festival app, and you can also submit your questions that way. So there's loads to get through. Let's kick off with Heather. Heather is General Manager at A&E Network. She's responsible for a wide portfolio of channels, including History Channel, Crime Investigation, and Lifetime. Let's kick off with History Channel to begin with, Heather. Now, Sean Bean on Waterloo was a big success for you last year. What's next for that channel?
Yeah, I think we learned quite a lot from having Sean on the channel, because obviously brilliant having a Hollywood A-lister that kind of bridges the gap between our scripted and our unscripted titles, and clearly a show that had a lot of history at its heart. So I think we took that theme, we realised how well it worked for us, and kind of wanted to cast the net a bit wider. Rachel, who works on history, who's here today, has always been really keen to get sports personalities onto history. We know there's a big crossover between Sky Sports viewers and the history viewers. So we kind of thought, where do we start with that? We went through our list of kind of personalities that we felt fitted that kind of challenger brand that history has. And Ronnie O'Sullivan felt like a really, really good place to start. And then the challenge was, how do you make Ronnie O'Sullivan sit naturally on history? So we might as well just have a look at the clip, and you can see this is literally all I've seen of the show. They've just shot it. North One made it. It's for 1 hour, or it will be for 1 hour. And they've pulled this together at very short notice just for this. So we'll have a look.
Okay, let's have a look.
Five-time snooker world champion Ronnie O'Sullivan is on the ultimate road trip with his buddy Matt Smith. He'll visit 4 very different cities on a journey of discovery.
I can't believe I'm standing in Elvis's house.
Make sure we're empty.
What a buzz. What a buzz.
He's going to learn about a great American sport, its place in American history,
And there is a pool and billiards connection. Really?
Is there?
Yeah. Mark Twain.
Who's it?
Mark, who's he?
and explore its future.
So now you're holding a cue.
What are you going for, the 6?
Oh,
wrong.
Jesus fucking hell. That is
Did you try and lean on a table?
Yeah. That's scary. Looking forward to a bit of hustling now. We've got to pay for this trip somehow.
Yeah, that's true.
So Heather, how important is it for a big name to be attached to a project?
I think for us at the moment with our UK commissions, it's really important. We're not looking to do lots of hours, we're looking to do quite short runs, but they need to be quite noisy. And I think people sometimes think history as a subject matter can be quite dry. So to attach a name that feels like they've got all of that personality, I mean, he's such a brilliant character, and I think he's a real kind of national treasure, particularly to our sort of male viewers. So it's a great way to bring new viewers into the history brand so they can see that we're not about kind of dusty, old-fashioned documentaries.
And what do you have enough of already?
Well, I think because we get so much of our volume from the US, we don't need high volumes of anything. We just need things that really, really stand out. So we don't want one-off docs that feel like they come from a history lecturer. You know, we've got brilliant channels over here that do that kind of thing already. So we need things that give you little nuggets of information about history, but very much through an entertainment lens.
So what specific kind of ideas are you looking from UK producers, and how many hours are you looking to commission?
Yeah, we don't have a kind of a specific number of hours. I think it's more about the fact we would like to get 3 or 4 new shows a year that are UK commissions that feel like they are using talent in a new and a fresh way. History has to be at its heart. It might be connected to an anniversary. Obviously, the Sean Bean project was connected to the 200-year anniversary of Waterloo. So I think to anchor it either in a historical event or some kind of interesting historical period, clearly, I think that's the priority. But we're very broad in terms of what we'd consider. It just has to be something that feels like it's presenting history in a way that's exciting.
And is there always an international element to anything that you commission? Does it have to travel globally?
No, it doesn't. I mean, our joint venture actually operates history in various different guises across 90 countries. But the UK budget is very much about UK shows. I don't want to start watering down what the proposition is by going, oh God, how do you make Ronnie O'Sullivan work in Africa? You know, I think it's important that we make the best show for the UK. As it happens, sometimes there are shows that have talent that transcends the UK. So Sean Bean actually was a good example of where, when we told some of the other channels around the world, they were really interested in it and actually put some money in towards it. So we can then create international co-productions, but our priority is to focus on the UK. The one thing I should mention, though, is there's a project that's happened this year that originated in the US, but they kind of felt it wasn't necessarily going to be a big priority for them, told us about it, and actually that in itself became an international co-pro. So it was a project from October Films called Barbarians Rising, which actually launches next week on History. So it's a big, epic drama doc, expensive CGI, basically lots of fighting about the fall of Rome. And that is one of those examples where a number of different countries have put money into a project. So we do occasionally do kind of more formal international co-pros, but our focus in the UK is very much just about let's make the best show for our network.
Okay, great. Let's move on to crime and investigation. What are you most proud of from last year? What really worked for you on that channel?
On all of our commissions worked last year in CI, actually. So Mykura, who's here, does an amazing job of getting those shows because we tend to commission about 50 hours a year as well. So it's relatively high volumes for us. But I think the one that stands out for me is Crimes That Shook Britain, because we took a show that we'd already done 5 series of, and the challenge to kind of how do you continue to breathe life into it to make it feel fresh and bring new viewers into that franchise. So we added Dermot Murnahan, so clearly we kind of extended the journalistic credentials of the show, and the ratings went up something like 22% over Series 5. So I think to take an established franchise and kind of dial it up, I think that's something to be really, really proud of, and we'll continue to do that with that and other franchises going forwards.
We do have a lot of returning shows, but you are commissioning new stuff as well. I think we've got a little clip from one of your new shows coming up, which is Robbie Coltrane's Critical Evidence. Let's have a quick look at that.
When there's a murder with no suspect, no leads, perhaps not even a body, that's when investigators face their toughest test.
The evidence must be gathered. The evidence must be analysed. But the evidence is worthless if you can't pin it to a suspect. The only way to crack the hardest cases of all, the only way to prove what happened, the difference between success and failure, critical evidence.
Oh, you've got me hooked on that. How did that come about?
He's brilliant, isn't he? So, well, it actually came about because I think IWC actually brought the idea of Robbie on CI to Cooler, and they worked it up. And actually, it's a brilliant, very simple idea that works really well. And I think in terms of how we're using talent on CI, it's quite different to how we use it on History. On History, it's very much about surprising talent that you wouldn't expect to be hosting a factual show. So a big name, but doing something that feels like it's quite different for them. For CI, I think it's really important because of the credibility of the channel that the pieces of talent have to be connected to the subject matter or the genre in some way. So clearly journalists is something that, we use a lot of journalists, but Robbie, not least because of his Cracker association and actually brilliant timing that we hadn't expected that the Channel 4 drama with Robbie is coming out around the same time. So that's probably quite helpful for us. But actually what I didn't realise is he has a genuine passion for this subject. His father was a police surgeon, so he grew up around this sort of thing, and he is genuinely fascinated in the subject, and that's really, really important because it delivers on the premise of that. And I think the notion of a different way into these kind of quite complex murder stories, of taking the notion of one tiny piece of evidence, and often it's really, really small. I know it's an 8 hour, and one of the episodes actually covers a body that was caught by a fisherman's net. They couldn't identify the body apart from a tiny tattoo and a watch that he was wearing. And they actually solved the crime because the serial number on the back of his watch, they discovered that the murderer had assumed the identity of the guy that had been killed. So, you know, that literally down to the serial number on the back of his watch was what helped solve it.
Now, Dance Mums was your big success. What's next for you? What else are you looking for that channel?
So the biggest show we had this year was Britain's Next Top Model, which for us, I think, took us to a completely new level. It brought so many new viewers in who really stayed with us and actually went to the rest of the schedule to check out what else we had. So that's coming back, which is great. We're in the auditions phase at the moment. That's quite an expensive show for us, so we tend to put most of our kind of headline budget into that. We are looking at how we seem to have really owned that fashion reality space. So Project Runway has worked really well. Australia's Next Top Model. So we're looking to kind of go, how else do we expand that space? Can we get, for example, into beauty or makeup that works so well online in short form? How do we take that into kind of the long form space so it sits alongside Next Top Model and Project Runway? So I think there's definitely an area of expansion within the kind of fashion and beauty space for us, but also even how we get into the more sort of women's issues in an entertaining way. So there's a couple of different avenues that we're looking at the moment.
Great. I've got a question here from the app. And it says, with so many platforms available competing for the same audience share now, what do you as content owners see as the competitive edge in the rat race?
I mean, I think what we need to very aggressively do is get into the space where we are approaching all of our projects in a more 360 way. I think the first time we'd done that was Britain's Next Top Model, where rather than, for example, doing a press launch 2 days before, we actually launched the show. We had the party and everything live with the actual on Night of TX, and we actually had like a virtual party that people could come to. Consequently, we trended #1 on Twitter, which for a little old lifetime was quite an achievement, and we had huge reach and scale across all the different social media platforms. So I think any project we come to, and it's something that all commissions are saying now, but we have to take it really seriously. It's no longer about a linear piece of content, it's about a brand and how you kind of address that. So I think it's something that when you talk to the A&E commissioners, we are going to be much more focused on that going forwards.
Great. I've got another question here from the app, and it says, how do you keep a show like Top Model fresh?
I think what you have to do is look at what makes that show really distinctive. And I think when I was a massive fan of Next Top Model, and I was really sad when it disappeared, but for me, it felt like it had, when it was on Sky Living, it felt like it had started to focus more on the kind of the high fashion element, and had kind of lost track of the fact that it was partly about the exciting journey of these girls who are kind of doing something new and quite scary and exciting, but the reality element of kind of, you know, all of them living in together. And I felt it sort of lost a bit of that along the way. So I think going back to what makes a show original and compelling in the first place is really, really important.
Fantastic. Heather, thank you so much for speaking to us today. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next up, we've got Hamish Mykura from National Geographic. If we could get Hamish up and mic'd up, that would be great. Hamish is the Executive Vice President of Programming and Development for National Geographic Global Networks. He leads the production hub based in London, and globally, Nat Geo has an impressive 479 million homes that it's available in. That's a lot of potential viewers for you, isn't it? Your recent successes include Genius by Stephen Hawking, Primal Survivor, and Dinosaur Autopsy. What's been your big standout performance out of that?
Well, we've had increasingly we're looking at these really big scale shows that can reach bigger audiences. I think that the best example of that from last year is probably Morgan Freeman's Story of God. Interesting that Morgan Freeman can be a Nat Geo star. I think he's, you know, we talk a lot about national treasures on channels here, and I think for us we're kind of looking for international treasures, people who can be presenters that will really work in lots and lots of different territories and also have a passion for their subjects. So I think looking for presented programs or hosted programs, as I've learned to call them, dealing with the Americans, that's more of a priority for us than it used to be. Well, people often ask, what subjects are you looking for documentaries? And I think that it's hard to sort of pick out a list of subjects that we like, but I think what you can say is that I think access is a really big deal. I think the thing that we liked about the Antarctica series was that even though people have filmed there a lot before, there's never really been an embedded crew in one of these ice stations. I mean, their two big ones are McMurdo and Scott Base, which are quite close together. And these guys got amazing access there, where they were really in amongst the, staying with the characters there. Where they had a great cast of characters. They were really getting a kind of depth and level of intimate access that I'd certainly never seen before. And that's made for, I think, a series which it looks like, you could read it as a traditional piece of National Geographic commissioning, but when you get into it, it's actually a really modern piece of access character TV.
Well, they're big, they're glossy, they're expensive. Are you only focused on those big shows?
Well, there's been one really big change at National Geographic in the last year, and that is that it used to be that the channels, National Geographic channels, were part of the Fox group, but the rest of National Geographic wasn't. But Fox have now taken over the whole of the businesses of National Geographic, so they're running the channels, they're involved in the magazine, the publishing, and a whole range of businesses. And then 27% of the proceeds go to the National Geographic Society, who are funding research and who are funding exploration. And so the relationship is working in a different way. That big new Fox partnership has given us a number of things. One, a lot more money to spend on programs, no question about it. And two, a much more joined up way in which we can work with the magazine and with all the other parts of the businesses, and that's got a big online implication as well. But from a programming point of view, it does mean that there's much more focus on big premium projects. It's not so much about multi-part returning series, it's much more about big event programs. And being given the commissioning brief, commission the most exciting factual programs there have ever been. Off you go. You think, okay, that's not a bad job. Quite nice having a boss who asks you to do that. And so the kind of scale of ambition has definitely increased. And I think coming through this year, we're really going to see the fruits of that.
Has Fox's relationship shifted the focus back to the US and US producers? How will that affect UK producers?
Well, I am working much more closely now with my colleagues in the US, and that's had a number of impacts. One, my vocabulary has become tremendously American, so I now unironically say I'm going to reach out to people, and then I look at the people I'm speaking to, and they're kind of going. And I go, well, make contact with people is what I mean. But the effect of that really is that there is a big pot of commissioning money which sits in Washington, D.C. And for UK companies who are really keen to access that, working through the London office is a very good way to do it. I mean, some people already have very well-established contacts with the US commissioning team, but we are all pitching into one big green light process in the US for these very big projects. And so we're bringing lots of projects through from UK indies and other international indies, but mostly UK indies, and having a great success rate at getting stuff commissioned out of that US budget.
Well, you've got a number of channels under the Nat Geo umbrella. What are you focused on? Which channels really do you need more commissions for?
Well, the main National Geographic channel is certainly where most of the really big commissions will be put. There's also National Geographic Wild, which is, as the title suggests, really mostly natural history and wildlife programming. And then in a lot of territories, we also have Nat Geo People, which is a more female skewing network. It's not in the UK as yet, but it is in a lot of other countries.
Wow, another visually stunning show there. How long does it take to put together a show like that?
Well, that's from Icon, and they've been working in Botswana for really a long time on that. I mean, they really have been filming throughout all the different seasons. I mean, I share that partly because it's a good idea, it's a good example of a National Geographic Wild channel commission, but also just because it is doing something in a new way. I mean, the pitch for this one was it's Game of Thrones with big game, and that's really exactly what it is, and it just turns these kind of incredible sort of long-term struggles between different prides of lions, different animal groups, into a sort of major saga. So you get to know the characters, you get to know the individuals, you see terrible things happen to them, and you really are rooting for the heroes. So it's a really interesting new way of doing a wildlife program and giving it a different kind of energy.
Well, there's another new commission that really stands out for me, and that involves Richard Bacon. It's called Explorer. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, well, I mean, we talked a bit about using presenters on National Geographic, using big scaled-up factual commissions. I think the other strand that we're looking for now is just, what else can we do in the mix that's going to give the channel a different and more accessible feel? So having a returning magazine show, talk show or magazine show, is something that we've never really done before, and that's going to be starting in November on the channel. And it is Explorer. Explorer is a brand that's been used on the channel for many, many years, but it's coming back in a different form. And Richard is going to be presenting this program, which will have film segments and also amazing range of guests and quite a lot of studio chat as well. And there are a lot of them. There's going to be 25 episodes in the first run, and then hopefully we'll be returning quite quickly to more. So it will become an established weekly thing on the National Geographic channel, and it gives it a topicality and a kind of feel as if the program isn't all just being run off tape. The channel isn't being run off tape. It's something which puts the channel much more in the moment.
Well, I wouldn't dream of pitching a talk show to National Geographic. How did that come about?
You particularly wouldn't dream of pitching a talk show hosted by Richard Bacon.
Absolutely. How did that come about? I'm really intrigued.
We and most of the casting for this took place in the US, but they looked at lots of different people who might present the program. And Richard, who's living in LA now and was living in LA at the time they were doing the casting, I think the thing that makes him so good, I mean, it's the case with lots of people who've done really a lot of radio. They're very quick on their feet, and I think the great thing he can do is handle the very serious subject matter, but also make these very quick turns into a kind of much more irreverent, sort of comedic, enjoyable, fun way of presenting as well. And I think some people can do one or the other, or they can do both, but the sort of mixture can feel uncomfortable. But I think Richard is very agile as a presenter in that way, and certainly the early stuff that they've shot is looking really good.
And so does that mean you're open to anything? Does anything go? Are you open to all sorts of formats?
I mean, I think that, we're not looking just to load up the channel with lots of different things, but I think that putting down big bets is what it's all about. There's nothing small about the Explorer, and I think that just being able to say this is something that we're going to do and really put a lot of resources behind it is the way to make the channel feel kind of distinct and different from how it was before. Okay,
I've got a couple of questions from the app. What subject are you sick of being pitched?
Well, we've got a lot of space coming up on the channel at the moment. I mean, I wouldn't say I'm sick of it, but I don't think I've got I don't have much space for more space, is what I would probably say. Mars is coming up in the autumn, which is this enormous series which is made by Ron Howard's production company, by Imagine Entertainment, and that's going to be. It's a documentary set in the future, looking back at how we colonized Mars. So the documentary is effectively entirely drama, and it's looking at how we sort of first landed on Mars, how we managed to set up the first Mars base, about the first moment that we were able to make the atmosphere breathable. It's about the first person who was able to take off their helmet and sort of breathe a breath of fresh Martian air. And so all the archive is effectively drama. And it's directed by a young Mexican director called Everardo Gaut, who's done it's dramatizations that are not like any documentary dramatizations you've seen. It really is absolutely like watching a film, watching a movie. And then the documentary sequences in there very much kind of support the drama storyline and remind you that what you're seeing is actually very, very factually based all the way through. But that probably doesn't leave a lot of other space for commissioning more about interplanetary travel at this particular point.
I'm going to combine two questions from the app. I'm going to get our money's worth from you today, Hamish. As your content at the moment speaks to Shane Smith's call during the McTaggart for socially important subject matters, are you actively trying to reach millennials with that? And what more are you doing to feature diverse talent on your channels?
Well, I mean, I think the millennials question is very interesting. I think that that's one of the reasons why our magazine program, A Talk Show with Richard Bacon, is good in the mix, because it is probably going to reach I would hope a younger and a different demographic. So I think that, and then I think also with the combination with National Geographic magazine and all the other parts of the business, it gives us a chance to focus on the way we use social media differently. The social media footprint of National Geographic is actually unbelievably huge. We have sort of 250 million worldwide fans if you include all social media pages, whether it be Instagram or Facebook or whatever, which is sort of, you look at that and you think, can that figure really be right? And it is because internationally, National Geographic is just such a kind of widely sort of penetrated brand. It just absolutely is everywhere. And so I think that that's a brilliant way of using content differently, of using things which can sometimes connect and spin off from the TV programs, but absolutely engage with a different and a younger audience. You'll notice National Geographic is on the front page of Snapchat if you use that. My kids do. I can't claim that I do, but it is quite good seeing that Nat Geo is one of the first things you come to. And for many people, National Geographic is first and foremost about photography. That's what people kind of think of when they think of the magazine. And so many of these social media, Instagram, Snapchat, and so on, are really photography based. That Nat Geo turns out to be a really good brand online in that respect, and it's working extremely well for that reason.
Great. Hamish, thank you so much. Hamish Mykura from the National Geographic channel. Right, next up, we've got Louise Homes from Comedy Central and MTV. We're going to speak to her, first of all, about her role in Comedy Central. She is Director of Programming for that channel, specifically for Comedy Central UK. She's responsible for the editorial strategy across scheduling, acquisitions and non-scripted commissioning. Hi, Louise. You've had some big successes over the past year, including Drunk History, I Live with Models, Russell Howard Stand Up Central. What really stands out for you?
Well, I'm super proud of where Comedy Central is at the moment. The team, some of whom are here, have done a fantastic job in defining the channel and help shape what Comedy Central means. And our share is at the highest it's ever been. We've grown in daytime by 10% and in peak by 29% over the last 2 years. And that's more growth than E4, ITV2 or Sky One. So, super impressive growth. And I think that shows we're kind of the popular kid in the playground. But there's a nuance to that. And I think we're becoming the cool kid in the playground and going behind the bike sheds a bit more. And by that, I mean, we've got shows like South Park, and then in the last couple of years, Amy Schumer, Broad City, Idiot Sitter. And then if you layer on top of that the UK commissions, which really have defined our brand and our voice, like Russell Howard and Drunk History, then you get the sense of what the channel's about and where we're going.
Okay, well, let's have a look at Drunk History now.
Get ready for stage 2 of my coolness.
Drunk History is back for a brand new series.
Here we go, guys. Yes!
The year is 1805. Woo!
Do I start the story now or what?
Robin Hood. He's out hunting one day. All of a sudden, he's using absolute salt. Looks like a baby's spice.
Shh. Spoiler alert.
I'll ask you, what happens then, Drunk History?
We will fight them on the bitches.
Lord George Byron, get out of town. You...
What are you talking about, mate? That's never going to happen.
Meanwhile.
Women and children first. It's fine that you've soiled yourself.
Can I have some water? It's my round. Who wants a drink?
I want to be mates with that guy.
The brand new series of Drunk History starts tonight at 10, only on Comedy Central.
So why did that work for you? Why is that channel defining for you?
I think that just shows the kind of risks we're willing to take when we really believe in something. I mean, who would have thought that putting a camera on a bunch of drunk comedians could turn into a show that really has become synonymous with the channel? And we have comedians queuing up to be on that show. And those that have done it want to come back. They say, we can't believe we were paid to have the best day of our lives on camera. And I think one of the secrets to the success of that show, because the second series has doubled its audiences since the first, is really this kind of eclectic craziness that is that format. And you've got the unpredictability of the drunk comedians, the beauty of the reenactments, which is quite a unique format point, and then this kind of salad, weird, crazy salad mix of talent, where you have the comedic royalty of Olivia Colman and Jack Whitehall and Catherine Tate, alongside Jamie Lang and Michelle Keegan and Emma Bunton, and that really just shows the variety of that show and what makes it work, I think.
Fantastic. Well, let's have a look at what you've got up and coming next. And this is a clip from Russell Howard and Mum USA Road Trip.
Can I set it up if I may? So Russell's obviously a really important talent for the channel, and we work really closely with talent to understand what their passion projects are and what matters to them, because I think that's how you get an authentic show. And in talking to Russell, he said, my mum has never left the UK, she's never left the West Country, and I'd love to take her with me to the US. And we said, great, that sounds like fun. There's comedy built into that, you can see. And so we took Russell and his mum on a 6-week trip around the US, East Coast, West Coast, and they did some absolutely crazy things, from trying out hip-hop in Atlanta, from visiting the Pooch Hotel in New York, where pampered pooches pay $200 a night to kind of stay there. And they also went to visit the most haunted house in America, and Russell was so shit scared he slept with his mother in his bed that night. So there might be some of that in this clip, I think.
Fantastic, let's have a look.
Atlanta. You know, like the man from Atlantis? Is that like Atlanta? Or is that another place?
No, Atlantis is an underground sea kingdom.
Let's do this!
Just like in everything.
Outlaw country! Break it down now! Ow!
Ow! Ow! Ow! Are you not entertained?
You go for it, my little prince!
I'm Peter of Lasso myself. Whoa! I thought that was a dog. I thought it was a ghost dog.
So you've got that coming up, but what more do you want? What more are you looking for?
So I think that's a good example of where we're going. We don't have an army full of commissions. We have a handful each year, and they're really precious to us. And they've got to say something about the channel. They have to help tell a piece of the story and illustrate the brand. And we're pretty good for sitcoms and stand-up. So we're looking for funny in all its different flavours and trying to find new places for funny. We have been looking, we've recently had hidden camera shows, prank shows, clip shows. They're pretty good on the channel. We're looking in earnest at things like quiz shows and game shows. We did a really interesting pilot a couple of months ago with Chris Ramsey, which was a hybrid sort of entertainment format, chat show, panel show, quite hard to place. And we're looking at developing that further. But I think you can find funny anywhere. And I think most genres can be comedified. So if you take something like Reality, Made in Chelsea, Towie, they've got funny elements. What's the comedic reality show? That must be out there. Or Funny Factual, Fact Dense. My dream in a couple of years' time might be to have a high volume, strippable access peak show that's our version of Don't Tell the Bride or Come Dine With Me. Because again, those shows have comedic elements in their heart. Just think, by twisting the narration or a different host, they could have a home on Comedy Central. So that's the kind of direction we're going in. And I'd say to anyone who wants to pitch to us, be mixologists, be inventors, be chefs, throw the things in the blender and see what comes out. As long as there's funny bones in there, ideally talent, and then a hybrid of formats, then maybe something unique will come out. Maybe it will be the new kind of flavour of salted caramel. Where did that come from?
Well, when you mention talent, and people like Russell are established, they're big names, would you take a chance on someone new?
Talent's important. As Heather said, we're a digital channel. We're in the same sort of space. We need talent to work hard on the EPG for us. But we do have lots of vehicles where we develop new talent. So if you think about Drunk History, some of those comedians, it was their first TV gig. Russell Howard's Stand Up Central is a great show where you have headliners every week. You have Russell, you might have Jimmy Carr, you might have Joe Lycett, you might have Chris Ramsey. But then you might have an unknown Japanese comedian like Yuriko Katami, who is so new, it was her first TV gig, she didn't even have an agent, and she took the day off work and didn't tell anyone she was in that show. So we have space for, all levels of talent.
Okay, great. Let's talk a little bit about your digital strategy. Are you commissioning short form at the moment? What are your thoughts there?
Digital is so important to us. I mean, comedy is native to digital, and our young audiences, we only get paid for viewers who are aged 16 to 34. That's all we monetize, that's all that matters to us. And those audiences are increasingly online, so we have to be in that space too. I've already talked about how our share has grown on linear, which is fantastic, but if you take our digital story, our website views have more than doubled this year, as our Twitter and Facebook followers have too. And we're beginning to commission more in that space, particularly for Snapchat. Again, we're on the Discover section of Snapchat. We get millions and billions, I can't even compute the numbers, of views every day. And that really is a beast in terms of content. We make 14 pieces of new content a day. That lasts for 24 hours. And feeding that beast is something we have to think about. We're looking at commissioning more short-form series that live on Snapchat, they might live on the website, they might live on YouTube, and they might eventually find a home on linear. So that life cycle of content and how we bring content and talent from digital to linear is something we're really looking at.
So have you fenced off a pot of cash for that? Is there
Not only a pot of cash, we have a commissioner in that area, Claire McArdle, who looks specifically after our short-form commissions.
Okay, we've got a couple of questions from the app. Will we ever see a time when Friends isn't being shown on Comedy Central? It's from the app, not me. I can get away with asking that.
For as long as the hundreds of thousands of people that watch Friends, young viewers, 16 to 34, want to watch it, we will show it. And it's just such an evergreen brand. Who wouldn't want Friends on their channel? And for anyone who's been looking at social media lately, you'll probably see we've launched Friends Fest for the 3rd year now, and we've expanded it. It's a live event that takes Friends into the real world. This year it's in 6 venues across the country for 6 weeks. It launched in Haggerston Park on Tuesday night, and it's a recreation of Monica's apartment. There's all sorts of central perk bills. It's sort of a Friends pop-up event, if you like, that we're doing with Luna Cinemas, and we've sold 60,000 tickets to this festival over the next 6 weeks. So people love Friends, and we'll keep showing it.
I've got no complaints. I'm a Friends fan. I'm with you on that. What would you say the biggest misconception about your channel is?
I think it's one we've been addressing over the last few years, but it's really the notion, I think, in the past that we were a channel that just had US acquisitions. And I think from research we did 2 years ago, people used to think we were a black box that was played out of America. We didn't have a team of people here in the UK who run and love the channel. And I think the kind of emphasis we've put on UK commissions over the last few years is really beginning to address that perception and change it.
Fantastic. Do you think it's always difficult to make stand-up work on TV, or does that depend on the performer, would you say?
It does depend on the performer. I've been in rooms where we film stuff on the stage, and in the room the atmosphere is electrifying, and when you take it to TV there are bits of that don't quite translate. So I don't think it's as simple as just pointing a camera and it automatically being a ready-made show. There's definitely skill in that.
Okay, just one more question from the app, and the similarity of Russell Howard's and his mum in that show to 50 Ways to Kill Your Mummy seems to be quite striking. How have you differentiated it?
I think in this show it's not Russell trying to kill his mummy. I think it's his mummy that's doing it to him. It's kind of the flip. She comes out on top in many situations. She's really ballsy, really funny, and I think she's going to be the star of that show. Don't tell Russell. I think she'll have the TV contracts lined up after this.
Great, well, we'll have to wait and see. Louise, I'm going to ask you to stay put, because put on your MTV hat now. And if I could ask Craig Orr to come up to the stage, please. Craig is Director of Commissioning and Development at MTV International, and he plays a vital role in the success of the juggernaut that is Geordie Shore. He's also in charge of shows like X on the Beach, Judge Geordie, and Spring Break with Grandad. So Craig, thank you so much for joining us today. Let's just kick off straight away with a clip from Teen Mum UK.
My name's Mia and I'm currently pregnant. Nobody knows what love is until they've had their own child.
Look at that face. Oh, Dylan just proposed to me. Very happy at the minute. Very, very happy.
How could you sleep with my best friend a day
before you asked me to marry you. That's a full-time job in your hands.
I can do it by myself. I know I can. I just don't want Kaya to grow up without a dad. Say bye. Bye.
So Teen Mum UK, what makes that so different to the US version?
Yes, just to give a bit of context, Teen Mom US is one of the highest performing shows on MTV, along with the juggernauts that Craig looks after, the X's, the Geordies. Teen Mom and Catfish are also really important parts of the schedule. And because of that, we thought, right, we're going to do a UK version, why not? And one of the key differences is that we have given GoPros and iPhones to the girls, and they're recording their own video diaries and moments of despair, intimacy, that the US show doesn't have. And that gives it another layer of real authenticity, but also kind of intimate moments.
So how many new hours are you looking to commission for MTV? And what particular time slots?
For MTV this year, we have between 25 and 30 unallocated hours that need to TX before October 2017. At the moment, it can go anyway, but we're thinking it's probably going to be 4 brand new series, probably 2 big peak shows that can follow 10 p.m. high concept reality based ideas that'll like in the same vein as Geordie, X on the Beach. We're probably looking at commissioning more daytime friendly shows that might be more high volume, that like Teen Mom and like Catfish can sit across the schedule, but we will always premiere them at 9 p.m, so they need to be big enough to sit around the schedule and not just be daytime focused ideas.
So what are you looking for more of? Do you want more factual or particularly formatted shows?
No, definitely not more factual. We are entertainment completely focused. Reality works really well for MTV. We've always been at the forefront of reality TV. So ideas that have a basis in reality, like what Louise was saying earlier about mixing genres, works really well for us. And we're interested in more formatted reality. Definitely not more factual.
Okay, well, let's have a look at what defines your channel. This is a clip from X on the Beach. Brace yourselves.
X on the Beach is back. This time it's all stars. And as hard as they try to find their perfect match, standing in their way once again will be the Tablet of Terror. This time, it's playing dirty. It's going to be hotter than ever before. As emotions boil over, tensions run high, and the claws come out.
You two-faced little stubborn bastards.
As always, they'll never know whose X is next.
I did not think that was going to feel like this.
Now that show is huge.
Yeah.
It is absolutely huge. Why does that work so well for you, apart from the stripping bit?
I think it's a few things. First of all, it's great cast with great authentic storylines. The twist of X on the Beach works really well for us. It's really important for MTV to stand out, because we're Channel 126 and EPG. We really need to screen with big titles and big top line twists, and the idea of a reality show where you can find love, but the only problem is you've got to live with all of your exes. It works really well for us, and it's guaranteed story night on night, and every time a new ex comes in, it just starts again and causes mayhem.
But how do you take that genre forward?
How do you take reality forward?
Yeah.
I think a really big thing with going from Geordie Shore, which was following the same cast of extreme people and following their lives series on series, and listening to what was really going on in their lives and just looking at that, taking this and really twisting what was just a dating reality show with a real format point in that. I do think that is how we go forward, is how to make reality, like how to let reality breathe, but every now and again just like punch it in the guts a wee bit, and with sunbeds and X's coming out of water and things.
Well, let's talk a little bit about Spring Break with Grandad. How did that show come about, and what were you hoping?
So Spring Break with Grandad is a new show for us that we're launching in January. Again, it's a big reality show. It's the concept is 6 spring break virgins go to Mexico to enjoy spring break. They are told that they've got to party hard or go home, but the only problem is they've got to do it with their grandparents. So how did it come about? Somebody pitched it. I think it was potentially inspired by the Not Dirty Grandpa film that was out last year. We absolutely love the title. It seemed right for us. It was young people in their world, which was spring break, but with the irreverent and cheeky twist of bringing in granddads.
And when you're commissioning, are you always thinking, will this show travel globally? Are you always thinking about the international franchise of a show, of a series?
So all of our shows that we commission have to play out universally. So they go in every territory that MTV is in, apart from the United States. The US may take some of our content, but our shows go out in 160 countries.
Wow.
So they do have to resonate, and that is why we wouldn't commission very British-centric shows or topical shows in the here and now. It has to have a real universal appeal. So with X on the Beach, everybody has an X. Everybody knows what it's like to bump into an X. That's all you need to, everyone around the world can understand that and get into that. And same as spring break, everybody knows what it's like to party, and everybody has a very individual relationship with their grandfather that is normally against what partying is.
Yeah, and MTV has a really big presence within the digital space.
Yeah.
What are you hoping to commission there?
I think it's important to say that with any MTV commissioning, social and digital is really at the heart of the commissioning. We've got a really strong social media team within MTV, and there's a massive social media strategy that launches even before our TX of all of our shows. And that keeps the conversation going. All of our audience, they are the 16 to 34s. They are on multiple screens at one time, so we need to be everywhere they are. And we want to keep the conversation going between shows and between series as well. Like Louise said, we're dipping our feet as well into short form commissioning. We just want to be everywhere young people are, and we don't need to be restricted by necessarily 30-minute time slots or 60-minute slots as well. So
when you're making a commission, do you immediately think, how will this play out on social media? And does that sway your decision?
When ideas are pitched, if they don't feel like they can go out in a full 360 product, then they just won't work.
Okay.
It's Geordie Shore and X on the Beach. Our Geordies have 25 million Instagram followers. They have 15 million Twitter followers amassed, and it's so important. It's really important for us to have not only good overnights in the 16 to 34s, but to see that we're the top tweeted show of that evening is shows that people that the shows are relevant for our audience.
Okay, I've just got a couple of questions from the app for you. Is MTV doing enough to feature diverse talent and contributors? And what more are you doing to encourage
Is it
diverse?
doing enough? I think we have a very, MTV at its heart is very non-judgmental, fully inclusive. We are very keen to show that in all of our casting in terms of our shows. And we're continually looking at how we can keep reaching all of our audience, not all of our audience everywhere.
Here's a good question. I like this one.
Good.
I should have asked everyone this question actually. What would you steal from another channel if you could? Oh, I've got one of those.
What would you steal?
I thought Taskmaster. I mean, even before yesterday, I think
Really?
it's such a clever format and such a hybrid of ideas and the talent at the heart of it. That's what I'd want for comedy.
I mean, I would. From the past, I would steal Survivor, which is going out again in Australia, but I would love that for MTV, which we can never do. First Dates, if it was purely young and millennial focused.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of these shows are returning shows, they're big franchises. What does it take to get a brand new show on MTV? Are you willing to take a chance on a brand new idea and a brand new indie, a small indie, for example?
Yeah, we absolutely are. And Spring Break of the Grandad, for example, is a brand new indie that we've been, it's Hanson Productions that we've been working with. What it takes is a really, really good idea that we feel is big enough to go out in 160 countries in MTV, backed with the right talent on screen or the right talent behind the camera. And if it's younger producers, smaller production companies that may not have the right infrastructure, then we'll definitely look at co-proing with other indies as well to help get it through.
Fantastic. Another quick question from the app. Young people used to turn to your channel for inspiring content. It now seems to be going online first. How are you fighting that and how are you tackling that?
I think actually we're reaching audiences both, like first online and on air. Geordie Shore this year is the most watched show for 16 to 34s on pay TV, which is beating even Game of Thrones. So we are doing, we are increasing our share. How are we tackling online? I would just say we've always, our online strategy and our social and digital strategies have always been in place, but they are growing series on series, so they're becoming bigger beasts in themselves. But yeah.
I think it's fair to say we do a lot of filming around those shows exclusively for digital and social to feed those beasts. So that, as you said, they're part of the 360 work that we do. It's not just about the linear. We create content around those juggernauts specifically for those platforms.
And somebody calculated the other day for X on the Beach was we had 800 bespoke additional assets just for the social media and media team to play with. So it's not just taking clips from the show or frames from the show. It's like really giving people bespoke stuff.
Okay, and another quick question from the app. What do people get wrong when they pitch to you? What are the pitfalls?
The pitfalls of pitching. I think a lot of people get wrong the essence of MTV, and the tone sometimes, which is we're not celebrating extreme behaviour, and that's not why the show's great. We're celebrating really good storytelling and brilliant contributors and brilliant lives. What else do people get wrong? A lot of people forget, the shows just need to be so big in scale that they need to go out 160 territories. It's not just pitching to me or other people on our team. It's like, I've got to go on and pitch those to all of the different clusters around the world, and it's just needs to be massive.
Okay. Craig, thank you very much. Craig Orr and Louise Homes, thank you for joining us today. Thank you. Thank you also to Hamish and to Heather from earlier, and thank you all for coming. I hope you found it useful. That's about it. Thank you so much to our sponsors, Broadcast, and enjoy the rest of the TV Festival. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Sam.